Welcome to the UpStreamLife.com. I'm your founder and editor, Vishal Krishna. My guest today is Rohit Agarwala, the founder of Barely Opinionated. Barely Opinionated is a platform which allows you to discover news on social media. But what is important about them is that they curate the news. They curate from different sources and present to you the facts that are necessary in politics, business, and other facets of life. Rohit believes in inclusivity and diversity in dialogue, much like me. So you want to know how a modern news platform is being built in India for the world, then you have to check out this interview. And Rohit is the guy that you have to go to. By the way, this interview is brought to you by Finverse.guru, a platform that allows you to reskill in finance. Yes, we all need to learn our finances, and knowing our finances gets us to the top of things. So if you're a student who wants to reskill, get to download Finverse.guru. But before that, check out this interview with Rohit. Rohit, I'm really excited to have you in my studio, and I think you're one of the leading journalists of your generation. I'll tell you why. I'm a fan of Barely Opinionated, but most of our audience, they might not know what Barely Opinionated is. Tell us about BO.
First of all, thank you so much, Vishal, for giving me such a great platform. For everyone that's watching, Barely Opinionated is basically a new age media platform. We use social media to give factual information, because what I realized was that there are so many Gen Z and young millennials that are on social media that don't read the news, that want to care about the country, but don't know enough to care about it, which is why everything is on social media. We are an Instagram first content company.
And when you say Instagram first and social media, I want to, dice it down to many parts. You said something really wonderful. You said young people do care, but they don't know what to consume.
Correct.
But they don't want to read a newspaper. They don't want to watch the TV.
Exactly.
Right? But they have mobiles. But they don't know how to get the news or gather news.
Exactly.
Why is that?
I mean, it's just about the patience that I'm also a Gen Z, right? It's just the patience that we have. The traditional media, they have not realized how we consume content, right? And because I belong to the generation, I understand, and the team understands what we need to do to make sure that our generation consumes the content, which is why, we are able to do what we do.
And that's interesting, right? When I consume, it's funny that your content matters to people like me too in their 40s. You had a recent series on tax planning.
Right.
That resonated very well with me. But then you also have series on politics.
Correct.
You have extended series on politics, and that's super. The fact that you're able to gather news from different sources, and you do source the news. You say that this is covered by this is covered by them, and then you say make up your mind, right? That's something wonderful, right? I mean, how did you get this idea?
This was, so I started this in October 2020 during the lockdowns. The main objective behind this was when I was on social media, because I had so much free time during the lockdown, I realized that people were putting out their opinion, like people in my generation were putting out their opinion. But then most of the opinion was based on incorrect facts, right?
Yeah, man, tell me about it. It's scary, isn't it?
It's scary. And someone was putting out their opinion based on incorrect facts. Someone else was reading it and they were forming their opinion based on that opinion. So it was just becoming Chinese whisper at the end of the day.
It's mostly gossip, man.
Yeah, mostly gossip, which didn't make sense. And that's how it all started.
Okay. Do you read a lot? And the fact is, every time I go to your platform to also say, okay, what are these young people consuming? Number one, what are they making? And number two, and number three, I want to find mistakes. These guys really making a mistake, but you've got it right all the time.
Right.
Is that because you read a lot? Were you a person who always read a lot? What's your background?
So I'm a business student, honestly. I'm a BBA. I graduated in BBA honors, but I've always had a passion for politics, geopolitics, economics, right? I've been a debating guy in college, in my school days also a little bit. And that is where my whole interest came from. When I decided to start Barely Opinionated, I wanted to do something on social media, but I wasn't good at dancing, singing, or making jokes. That's what was flying around that time. But I knew that I'm good at politics, understanding politics and breaking it down. That is how this thing came together. And now, fortunately, we have a very solid team at the back end, which makes sure that we're not making any mistakes. So again, not all credits to me. I want to credit this whole thing to my team and the strong foundation that we have been able to lay.
How big is the team?
We have about 7 core members, and we have an extended team of about 15 people.
Okay. Interesting when you said that you like debating, you like going out there in college and school and participating in events. These were these debate competitions, or just debating for school? Just go out there as a young guy and say something.
These were debating competitions. So
Which school did you go to?
I went to National Public School.
Okay, I've been there too.
Oh.
But that's a great school, right? They build some character in you. Studying.
But I'll tell you, I was a very I hardly did anything during my school days.
Okay.
My school days were very useless for me. I'll tell you honestly, I hated myself in school.
Who didn't?
And once I went to college, that is when the first day I entered college, I was like, I have to switch myself. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Then the first thing I did was join the debating society in my college, and that is where everything began.
What were you reading in college that took you to debates?
I'll tell you honestly, I'm not a big reader. I'm not a big book reader, I would say, but I love reading information, just general things that I'm curious about.
So you just pick it off the net?
Pick it off the net, yes.
But do you write too?
I used to write a lot. Right now I write. I try to tell stories through the content that we create also. That's basically my...
It's funny, I mean, you said that you don't read, because it's very interesting, and I like to point this fact out. When I open your channel on Instagram, Barely Opinionated, the way you convey your message is absolutely to the point. And that, I mean, it's not a show that you're putting on, but it's a show, but you're not cheating yourself, but you do prepare, right?
Right, of course.
And that's what I'm saying. You bring out the message very, very succinctly, and you spend a lot of time reading for that moment, though.
Exactly. So when we are putting out a piece, I make sure that I'm reading as much as possible about that particular piece of content, right? Reading in general, like reading a book for consuming knowledge without an outcome is a big task for me, which I'm trying to overcome. But when it comes to putting out information, reliable information, we go through hours and hours of research work just to be able to curate, say, a 1-minute piece or a 2-minute piece.
Because you did something on the Ukraine war.
Yes.
And I think they must have, and you've done a series of it.
Exactly.
And does your team read and give you pieces of information, and then you fact check, and then you go and prepare?
Yes. So how our process works is, we have a preliminary research team which basically curates all the information, right? Then me and another head of research, we sit together, we go through all of the information, we make sure that everything is factually correct, and then we sort of structure it in a way which is understandable for the audience.
Yeah, I think I think you said something very wonderful, that young people today need this kind of news. They care, but they don't know how.
Right.
But it is very snackable. And the intent was to make it snackable yet informative, right?
Exactly.
It's not as if they're just putting it there and going off.
Exactly.
You try to build curiosity, and you have a lot of followers now. Let's generally move away from Barely Opinionated. What are your thought processes on why? I mean, it happens with every generation, especially in India, especially since 1991. Even to be honest with you, I didn't read a lot.
Right.
Or I came to a point in college where I decided I have to stand out because I couldn't dance myself.
Right.
And I had to stand out, and therefore the reading and the intellectual side happened. But what about younger people today? They go through that journey, and hence you're giving them that bridge, Rohit, that say that, okay, you're not yet well read, you're getting there, consume this news, not the noise, and then get to wherever you want to go.
Exactly.
And get to being responsible. Because I know younger people are having fun, but then they have to come back to the community aspect of it.
Correct.
So is that what you're building?
Exactly. So if you look at a core of our audience also, it's a lot, we call them the future leaders of India. These are the people that are curious and want to learn, right? And these are the people that are, say, preparing for UPSC, that are preparing for CA, that are just the people that are going to be the builders of India. And that is our main target audience as well on our platform, which is what we are trying to do.
It's nice. And the fact that there are influencers out there, and influencers claim to do X. They talk about brands. They talk about products. But in your case, you talk about news.
Correct.
What's the fascination of the news for you? Why? Why news? Because you perhaps have to tell us that you alluded to earlier, saying that media channels are not in touch with the new generation.
Correct.
And don't blame me. I'm from that generation, right? I'm trying to understand.
Right.
What would be the consumption patterns now? How would people want to consume news? Is it an experiential? Because in the old world that I came from, we tried to build experiences for every generation, but we was not successful. But for example, if you look at New York Times, they have a subscription, Economist has a subscription, works very well for the mature audience.
Right.
But all of us would say that we do very badly between the 18 to 28 segment.
Correct.
right? Why
Correct.
is that?
See, I'll tell you, the thing is, generations older to us, like your generation, generations older to you as well, right? The reason your generation and the generations older to you are so much more connected to the country and to the world than our generation is because our independence was just 70 years ago, right? A lot of them have, in some way or the other, have been part of the revolution, right? Which is why they care so much. But our generation is very, very disconnected, which is why I feel like there is not that much connection to it.
Yeah, it's disconnected because of the information that's global now.
Exactly. And when you talk about New York Times subscription model, I feel like Indians are not, they are ready to, they don't want to buy such information when it's so easily available on the internet, right? So we are just trying to do our best to make it consumable by everyone.
It's interesting. I'm glad. So you're saying that you give them pieces, and you do give them sources as well, and they can go to read those sources. What is some of the typical engagement? Do people come and say, hey, I believe in this? For example, I remember when you did that with me, the podcast with me on your channel, I was pretty amazed that people started reacting. A younger audience started reacting.
Correct.
Especially to that Reliance book that I mentioned. A lot of younger people said that, hey, we want to... There are two types of people. People who said, I can sell you that book. And the people who said, where can I get the book? Right?
The person selling it was a hustler, by the way.
A few of them tried to reach out to me. They sent me PDFs also. And they said, I can make you many copies if you want it now. But coming down to the younger people, right? I mean, they do engage with you. And you're saying, what is the engagement rate in your channel?
So we get about a typical engagement rate on social media right now is about 4 to 6%. That's the average. We get about 8 to 10%, which is like really good. And we get engagement because our main idea is that we put out facts. We want people to share their opinions. So if you see our comment section, right, it's filled with variety of different opinions.
It's engagement, complete engagement.
Exactly. And we ourselves read those opinions sometimes, and our minds are blown because they are so intellectually thought out, which you wouldn't find anywhere else on the internet, honestly, right? And that I value that sort of engagement a lot more than, say, just likes or shares, right? The people, and there are on a daily basis, there are people that are reaching out and saying, we love your content, we just, see it every day. But there are also people that reach out to us who are just like, we want to do what you're doing. We are ready to do it for free for you. Just get us and let us do it for you, right? And this used to happen so much that recently we ended up curating a whole program for such people called the Barely Opinionated Research Cohort, where we are getting in people who are interested in writing content, who are interested in research. We get them on board. We train them for 3 months of how to research, how to write content, how to get accurate information, and they essentially become BO certified researchers. And we want such people to go out to the world, work for other brands, other companies, and really take the Barely Opinionated name forward to the world.
That's interesting, right? That's a business process that in your company. That's interesting. So you have a team of researchers. I was coming to that question. You have a team of researchers, designers.
Correct. Video,
camera editing. Where do you want to take this? Where do you want to take this brand? I mean, today it's obviously crossed 100K. You're in all social media channels.
Right.
Do you see yourself moving across the bridge in a sense from Gen Z, Gen X, Y, Z, then this calling the Gen Alpha or something? That's
Gen Alpha.
Do you think you got to constantly upgrade and keep the journey with? I mean, do you see a Barely Opinionated for my generation, for example? Will you bring something over?
Hopefully, yes. But right now, that's not our target. Okay. Our target is going to remain Gen Z, young millennials.
Because they're on Instagram.
They are not just Instagram, but what we are trying to do now is to grow across social media channels. Any social media channel anyone uses, preferable social media channel, their source of information should be Barely Opinionated. That's our objective.
But this is the element of seriousness to your news, and yet the engagement rate is 10%.
Correct.
Why is that so?
I mean, again, it's just people that love our content and people that really want to learn more and more about the country. And it's also the best part is because of the way we deliver, more and more people are able to consume it. Because what happens is when you look at a lot of these traditional media platforms, they either end up using really intellectual language to sort of put out
too much. content out
Exactly, too much content out there, or people are just shouting at each other. If you look at the TV side of it, right? That's not what we want to consume. That's not what
You're
our
just saying just
generation.
focus on this. We cut all the flab out.
Cut all the noise out,
Yeah.
just the information.
Okay. How often do you publish? Do you have a calendar?
Yeah. So we have two channels right now. Actually, one is Barely Opinionated. One is Money Matters, where we talk about anything related to money. So in a day, we are producing at least about 4 to 5 pieces of content across different channels, right? And we have a YouTube channel as well where we put out long form content. So one video goes out every week over there. So yeah, I mean, every day is about 4 to 5 pieces of content.
One thing is you've invested in Money Matters also, which is part of Barely Opinionated, of course. I think the finance investing part of it, everyone's getting right.
Right.
You know, there are, I mean, RBI has come up with a guideline. You did the story
Correct.
on whether, you know, these influencers should be curated or should they have licenses. Will licenses kill the whole fun of creating content? And that was a good debate that you created. Do you think it should be curated on the money side? Because the money side we've done well.
Correct.
On the politics side of the news, have we done well?
There are not many people touching politics, honestly, because everyone's just scared.
Why is that?
Everyone's just scared because of the crackdown on media.
But have they cracked down on you? You come up with some nice things.
We do, but
not not confrontational.
Not confrontational, first of all, and second of all, everything is based on data, and everything is based on factual information.
And you're showing who's covered what, rather
exactly.
than taking sides.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And we are not trying to say that this is good or this is bad. We are just saying that this happened and this happened.
So what's your opinion?
What's your opinion on it, right? So, which is why I feel like as of now we have not had any sort of clapback on whatever
Do young
we do.
people like politics?
I feel like they're getting into it.
Okay.
There's a lot more work that needs to be done, honestly.
What would you mean by that?
I feel like the targeting to the younger generation is not being done very accurately, and I feel like the targeting that is being done to a very younger, like at the school level and at a college level, is being too divisive.
Okay.
Right, and at the end of it, the value is lost over there.
Okay.
It's just about choosing a side. It's not about what's good or what's bad.
So there's no objectivity.
Exactly.
You're saying that's the problem with the education system. You're told to take opinions without really verifying.
It's not the education system, but it's the way things are being structured around the education system.
What do you mean? You want to explain that?
I do not want to go too deep into it.
What is your understanding of it?
I feel like children are being targeted at a younger age, which makes sense.
From parenting itself, you say?
Parenting and just public in general.
I think people don't read.
Yeah.
Don't inculcate the habit of reading and stuck to one side of the news.
Right.
And is that dangerous, you think?
It is very dangerous. And misinformation is a very big problem right now. And because of how social media algorithms are also designed right now, if you like one type of content, you're going to be fed that type of content, right?
I've seen that. I mean, I know this is a US guy telling me that the kind of content they get from TikTok in the US is all about partying and enjoying, but if you go to TikTok China, it's all about AI.
And that's
true.
I wouldn't. There's no provable fact to it.
I mean, I've heard these
exactly.
Are whispers.
These are whispers, and these are pretty accurate to, like, based on data and based on to analyze it. It's pretty accurate because there is an analysis of it that China is using TikTok to sort of feed the younger generation of the US things that would make them dumber or make them more stupid or make them not care about things. But in China, it's more about giving more value, giving more education, and bringing them up.
It's interesting, man. I mean, we'll stick to misinformation in the next few minutes. Then I want to get into algorithms.
Right.
Rohit, you're talking about social media. I want to talk about misinformation first and algorithms later. I know the impact. You said youth. We've discussed so far that there's so much news out there. Kids want to consume, but they don't know how.
Exactly.
But misinformation is real. People have been talking about it. Why haven't we been able to curate something? Why? Why is that? There are tools you mentioned, but what is the general problem? People don't know how to discover news?
It's a battle between freedom of speech and what's right and what's wrong, essentially, right? If you are classifying something as misinformation, yes, that's the right thing to do. But if that misinformation is based on someone's opinion, then you're curbing freedom of speech. So that's the biggest battle for social media channels also, and I honestly don't blame them. And again, it's something that political parties, politicians, governments across the world, businesses, that everyone sort of uses it to their advantage, this whole misinformation.
On top of that, the new community of influencers.
Exactly.
It's so strange, right? I mean, when you see all of that and you start something like this, is that a backlash for you, or is it a thumbs up for you? I think it's a thumbs up.
Yeah.
What do kids have to say when they discover news through you?
Everyone is just excited about what we do, honestly. We haven't received backlash for what we do, right? People question on the morality of it, people question on the ethicality of it, right? But not on the basis of what we are doing.
Because you've researched it and you're just putting it out
Exactly.
there. Why the name Barely Opinionated again?
Because we are barely opinionated, essentially. Whenever we have people that come in, we make them barely opinionated. The idea is that you do not have strong opinions. You are ready to listen to people, and at the same time, you are ready to educate them about your own opinion as well. That's the main thing.
You came up with the name?
Yeah, me and a friend of mine came up with the name. We were just ideating on what it could be, and that's how Barely Opinionated was born.
Now I want to bring in algorithms. Misinformation is one thing, and we spoke about China earlier on the type of news that they put out for their kids, and the type that they put out for kids outside their country. Again, it sounds like information war. It's psychological warfare out there. So your business makes sense. So when you look at all these algorithms throwing in news, you're saying this is what is trending today, but let me analyze this trend. Do you follow the trend, or do you follow what's essential?
What's essential. We try to stay, if you're talking about social media trends, we try to stay away from them as much as possible. But what the trends we focus on is what is the information that people are talking about.
And what can make you a better individual because of this?
Exactly. And if there's, for example, if Russia-Ukraine war has just started, people are going to talk about it. So we try to cover it extensively to a level where we are trying to give all the factual information, because there is going to be misinformation, there is going to be the opinions that are going to be out there.
Elections are coming up in Karnataka, maybe next year in India. Well, I'm sure you're going to put out a lot of content on this. Do you think people should vote?
Of course, everyone needs to vote.
They have to build a community, and it's a community, right? You've had your fun, but go back and contribute to the community. It's your right.
Correct.
Right? So I'm going to look forward to the content there. What's your favorite piece of content, from all these pieces of episodes that you produced? Is there something that you really like?
I have to go back to the early days of Barely Opinionated. So when we had just started, that was also the time where the farm laws were a big rager.
There was a big riot also.
Exactly.
Up in Haryana and Punjab.
Delhi. And that is when we were also curating a lot of content around the farm laws, because there's so much misinformation, we were breaking it all down. And that is where our initial sort of traction and initial sort of support started coming in from different people across the country. And it wasn't like people supporting the farm laws were looking at our content, or people not supporting the farm laws were looking at our content. It was people across the board that were looking at our content, were being like, wow, thank you so much for this information. And I'm honestly, we have done thousands of pieces after that also. But then that is what I go back to, and I'm very proud of.
Do you think that gave you the followers, or that gave you the happiness as a content creator or a journalist? Would you consider yourself a journalist? I call you a journalist in the modern era. You do talk to people, correct? Because you should check out his YouTube show, ladies and gentlemen. He does talk to people. Do you go verify these, right? You have a team verifying.
Correct.
Oh, you're a journalistic team.
Right.
Yes. So would you think that was the story that helped you get followers? The farm law story?
I wouldn't say to an extensive level. At that point, it was a big deal, right? So we might have gained about 3,000-4,000 followers because of that particular piece of content. But then now that we look at it, that wasn't as much. But for then, it was a big deal for us.
Very happy with that.
Yeah.
What's your biggest selling news piece?
What do you mean?
I mean, for example, I should say this. Of all the stories that I wrote, right, only two stories have done well. One was an apparel story, because I used Virat Kohli in the headline, and that went, but it was a good story.
Right.
It was for brand. And the second one, but was it really great in terms of information? It was just another startup story.
Right.
I think the better stories I've written, which have not been discovered, and that's another thing. I'll talk to you about discoverability. And the other one that I want to talk to you about was a story on smoking, and that had a lot of followers.
Interesting.
That the cost of smoking is going to go up.
Right.
Price,
Okay.
right. So, but when you look at these two, brand story and the smoking story, it really doesn't fly. But people have discovered you.
Right.
But in your case, what was that one story that got you a lot of readers? But were you happy with it?
I'm honestly very proud of every single piece of content that we make. There are certain pieces where we go here, where we might go a little bit off, and that is where our audience plays a very important role. Our audience holds us accountable. Even if we go a little bit, to the whether it's based on our opinions or based on the fact, if we go wrong anywhere, our audience always holds us accountable. I'm very proud of that.
Any particular piece of content?
Any piece of content, I would say there was a piece that we wrote, one on Byju's, and there was one piece that we wrote about Raghuram Rajan's Dosa Economics.
Yes.
Those two did really well for us.
Yeah.
But I have to say that any piece that we do on India, anything on India's development, anything new policies, all of those do well.
Are you sometimes at a loggerhead saying that you need to do something for SEO, that the trending, you said you're not into trending social media subjects, but in terms of business, do you do an SEO saying, okay, this is what's trending in business and politics, and therefore do you have to tune news to that? Is that
Of course, you have to talk about what people care about. Right now IPL is trending.
Yes.
We have to put in pieces about, at the end of the day, when we are on social media, we have to serve the algorithm, we have to serve the audience, right?
So you have to play to that.
You have to play to that. Elections are coming up. Obviously, we have to talk about elections. We can't not talk about elections.
Okay.
Right? So that is something that we focus on.
Typical work hours for you?
Typical work hours, I mean, I wake up by 9, I start by 10, I reach office by 1, I'm there till 9:30. Okay. But my work is all the day, all night. Through the day.
There's a lot of production work?
Lot of production work, yes. I'm shooting at least a video or two every day.
And that's something that you've done over the last 3 years?
Over the last 1.5. Video is something that we started a year and a half ago, and since then every day I've had to shoot something or the other.
Okay. So what next for your BO? I want to know your business now. You've built a great platform of followers. You now want to make it sustainable, become a business. So
Right.
what are some of your thoughts around this? You can talk about the media industry also and how it's saturated in many ways and how you want to refresh certain
Right.
things.
Our objective at the end of the day is to be a reliable source of information for across social media platforms for the people, right? And what we have been able to achieve as of now is that the trust that people have on the credibility is what I value the most, right? So even now when we work with brands, we just don't work with any and every brand, right? We do brand promotions, but then these are brand promotions that are going to add value to the audience also. We just don't do brand promotions for whoever's giving us. We have had to reject so many brands and so much money, which would have been good for the brand, but then again, it's no value to the audience.
Okay,
right?
So you're very careful with who you pick.
Exactly.
So obviously, do you want to work with brands necessarily because there's so much more you can do? Do you have thought processes on where you want to take the brand for the next 12 months?
Yes, I do. I want to honestly be able to work with government agencies because we are promoting what government agencies are doing, right? What the income tax department is doing.
Absolutely.
What the traffic police traffic cops are doing. What
Bangalore needs that.
Bangalore needs that. So it's just, I want to be able to work with different government agencies to push out the necessary information that people really need to know about, because again, my generation, the generation a little above me, misses out on all of these important things. It's usually like even when you talk to say other kids, right? They'll be like, yeah, my parents are pushing me to do something, that's why I'm doing it. Most of these people don't even care about voting, right? Because they don't really know. Right?
No, and you said, again, I'm going to say it, kids, if you're 18 today and in Bangalore or in Karnataka, you had your fun. Now it's time to give back to community. So do it. Go vote.
Please vote. Please
vote, and do check out his channel. He's going to, Barely Opinionated, is going to come up with some thoughts and news there.
Yes,
and it's 1 minute news, but he also has a long form on YouTube.
Correct.
Why do long form?
I mean, long form is the bread and butter, honestly. That's where a lot more value comes in. Like 1 minute content, yes, people are scrolling through Instagram, they see a piece of content, they like it, they're done, right? But then to go beyond and build a really trustable community, that is where long form comes in. When people are able to consume our long form content, that is when more trust is built.
And the fact that you picked so many stories as editor, you picked I liked one story where you did something on IIM.
Right.
Life in IIM or something, and it's not so good kind of life. That was fantastic.
Right.
Where do you get these ideas?
I mean, I'm just thinking whenever I try to create a piece of content, first I look at what I'm curious about or what my team is curious about, and then we look at what are people in our age group curious about, right? Right now, exam seasons are going on, exams are getting over, people have to make the decision, do I take science, commerce, MBA, BBA, what do I do, right? And that's when we were like, this is a big question. Should people do an MBA? Especially right now when there are so many alternatives, do certificate courses, do this, do that, do this. So we're like, why not? And that is one of our best performing content pieces till now, which is an hour-long podcast.
It's interesting, right? While we talked about education, we've talked about politics, we've talked about business. All this requires information.
Yeah.
And each of it is broken. And I think Barely Opinionated can take people on this journey.
Exactly.
Right? So you're saying, what is the average that a young person, when they go to Instagram, they're looking at, say, the person wants to go to gym, there's only gym content.
Exactly.
Then there's only some boys and girls dancing content.
Exactly.
Only that keeps showing.
Exactly.
So if they come to Barely Opinionated, does news show up on their feeds too, the more they spend time on news? Do you want that to get to that level?
Yes. I mean, honestly, I would want Barely Opinionated to be the only source that they consume.
Correct.
I wouldn't want them to consume any other source, because at the end of it, we are curating the reliable sources at one place.
Would you want to build a journalistic organization of saying now, yes, you consume Barely Opinionated of facts from everywhere across the world. Do you want to build your own opinion sources now, like your own set of journalists going out there doing some... You've got a research team, you could do that.
I mean, there are enough opinions out there. I do not want to contribute as a brand to more noise.
So you don't have to create to that noise.
We don't want to create that much noise. What we want to do is curate and bring together different perspectives and opinions. That's what we try to do.
Rohit, we've talked many things, and again, I have to ask you, do you like being a business person? Did you do it with business first in mind, or did you think you're passionate? And I think passion is what drives both of us, right? And that passion is what makes you tell great stories. Are you a storyteller, but being a businessman is something? Do you like being a businessman?
I like being a business person. I am a builder at heart. I have always, since a young age, wanted to do something on my own. And since my college days, I've always been on the entrepreneurship, trying to just do something here, there, right? And this is my big moment, I would say, where Barely Opinionated is what my end goal is.
When you told this to your parents, just talking as a business person, were they okay with it? What did they say? You're a first generation business person in your family?
Not a first, my granddad was, my dad, they took up a job, government job.
He's a bureaucrat.
Right, exactly. And I am a business person now. When I told my parents, they were very skeptical. But
you didn't sit for campus placement?
No, I did. So after I graduated, I worked at different places for 1.5 years. And after that is when I started Barely Opinionated. So when I came up with the idea, I told my parents about it. They were sort of hesitant on it. They didn't want me to quit my job and start this. But at the end of it, they were supportive, because again, I was young, and I am young.
And you can make mistakes.
I can make mistakes, and just because of their support and because they have helped me through this journey is why I'm able to do it. Otherwise, if there's no, I feel like if the family support is not there, the journey can get even more difficult than what it already is.
And you have a co-founder, the star here, Azan.
Of course.
He's a common friend. I love that guy. How did you guys meet?
So Azan, he runs his own company called the Hub Bengaluru, and during the lockdown, so 2021, they had this program called Entrepreneurship in Residence, where I could stay in their co-living space and work out of their co-working space for 3 months.
Just in the heart of COVID, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a big thing for us at that point, because we were just starting out and we were trying to figure out things. I applied, we got in. we started this whole, we became a part of the program, and that is when Azan and I got to know each other. He really loved what we were doing at Barely Opinionated, and he was also starting out on the media side of it that time with the Hub Bengaluru, and our conversations went on, and
he's building the distribution side of the business.
Right.
So that's how you became friends.
Exactly.
And started up.
Exactly, and he wanted to become a part of it. Then he sort of came on board as a co-founder, and he's now a co-founder.
Okay, I wish you both all the best, because I think Barely Opinionated can be a solid platform for the new generation, for companies to discover the new generation. They must tell stories to the new generation.
Of course.
It's very new media. You're not advertising. You're very different, right? Is it true? Are you advertising or completely very different?
No, we are to some extent advertising, but these are, again, when we talk about advertising, it's not the typical advertising. It's about value-added brands to our audience, nothing else.
And you can curate stories for them.
Exactly.
That's another beautiful thing that you can do.
Exactly.
Nice. So I wish you both the best. And Azan is a superstar. And Azan runs the hub, and we all know Safina Ventures, right? And is that where you work out of?
Yes. So the hub in the basement of Safina Ventures is where the Hub Bengaluru co-working space is. That is where our studio is also set up.
I think I fell in love with the place, right? It's got a nice, and that setup is beautiful.
It's beautiful,
right? And I would advise brands to check that place out.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. You have a co-founder. You got support from your parents. You sat for placement but didn't work long. Business been fruitful for you last 18 months?
It's difficult
because you're a post-COVID brand, right?
Correct. Ideally post-COVID brand. It's a difficult journey. I can't deny that, but it's also very. It gives an adrenaline rush whenever something happens with the business, right? Every time a piece of content goes out and we get good reciprocation from it, that's an adrenaline rush for us.
I think you're a true journalist. A journalist loves it when people come and say, "Hey, I liked what you did."
Right.
But yet you have not gone out there and said, "I am the influencer, listen to me."
Right.
And I like the fact that you don't have that God complex. Why did you choose that?
I mean, I feel like there are enough people out there that want to put themselves out and that want people's attention.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be one of those guys.
Barely opinionated, man.
It's barely opinionated. I just want to add value as much as possible through the content we create. Don't listen to me, listen to the facts that we are putting out.
Where did you get this form of learning from? Did your father read a lot? Did your mother read a lot? And that rubbed off on you saying that it's about facts?
Honestly, my dad reads a lot. And he would have loved it if I also read a lot. But no, that's not the case. But my father has always pushed me towards knowing about the country, and because he's also in a government service, he has always, I've been a little connected to that side of things, right? And just the debating side of it throughout my college is what has built me.
What's been, you said you spoke about your dad. What's been the influence of your parents on you apart from the reading part of it?
I've seen my mom is a housemaker. My dad, of course, is in government service. Just the effort that they have to go through to be able to do what me and my elder brother are doing.
What does your elder brother do?
He's working for a startup called Smart and Spaces, and soon he's also going into his entrepreneurial journey.
I wish him all the best. What's his name?
His name is Mohit.
Mohit. Yeah, Rohit and Mohit. Nice. Rhymes. But so your parents have had a significant impact on your life?
Of course.
Academically?
Yes. My dad has always pushed us to learn as much as possible. My father has gone to such an extent that he's funded other people's education. He's pushed other people to get their degrees to a very high level. He's also a very qualified and educated person himself. I'm nowhere close to that kind of qualification.
You should do a podcast with you. But he's been a philanthropist too. That's nice.
He is, and he's a shy person in that sense.
Does he consume your news?
He does. Every day we sit down together at night, and he'll keep asking me questions, which sometimes even I don't have answers to, and he's always very excited about different things that we are doing.
You know, one thing about the bureaucrats in this country, right? They're tuned to giving that India concept.
Right.
India, right?
Yeah.
And does he like it when the sun's down up saying, this is how India is doing, this is how the view of India for the world, does he like it?
He likes it. I mean, he doesn't have a bias towards our content, honestly. I wouldn't say that. He is more he's more excited about the idea of what we are able to achieve as a media brand and
What
as
does
a
your
business.
mother say about this?
My mom honestly doesn't understand a lot of the media side of it, but she's just excited about what her son is able to do. That's
What about all your friends when you have all these, as Barely Opinionated the brand, what do the friends say?
I mean, friends think it's a very, big challenge and a big thing that I'm doing. But at the end of it, entrepreneurship and building something feels very glamorous from outside. But then when you actually get into it, it's difficult, right?
I want to ask you these questions, right? As journalists, we often do mistakes, right? I mean, have you got things wrong anytime?
Of course, in terms of the content that we put out, yes, we do go wrong here and there, and like I mentioned
Does
before,
it frustrate you?
it frustrates me. But then it's just like you can't ponder over it too much, right?
In the old days when it was in print, you could not delete it. But at least in digital world, you can correct it.
Exactly, right? You can correct it, and at the end of it, we have such a strong and intellectual community that they always are correcting us.
You're going to grow the organization.
Yes.
You want people to work for you.
Of course.
And why should they work for Barely Opinionated?
It's just about the value addition that we are doing. If you are someone watching and you want to be a part of a new age media company that wants to educate the younger generation, this is the one for you.
Yeah, and I'm sure as they get older, the kids, they'll want you to build something larger with them.
Correct.
What have you planned for that?
Thought
about it.
No, I do not think you are supposed to think too ahead, but I do not end up thinking too ahead. I have plans for the next year and a half.
Yeah, which is purely content?
Purely content, purely distribution building. But yes, our end goal is also to build a platform, honestly, but that's something for a later stage.
If businesses are watching this, why should they come to you?
Because we are the trusted platform for the younger generation. And there is no other platform like us, that I can tell you for sure.
Objectively.
Objectively.
And it's not influencer-led, it's facts-led.
It's facts-led.
That's wonderfully said. Okay, you're not a reader.
Yeah.
In your free time, you don't party.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you do? What does Rohit do?
I mean, I honestly don't get a lot of free time. But then when I do, I just like playing games. That's sort of my
kind of thing.
Yeah. That's my thing, and I like to talk to my friends. That's a big part of my
college friends.
My apartment friends. Just people around.
It's like an adda kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Politics again, or?
No. Just
that's very weird. You just like talking.
I just like talking, and the thing is, I'm reading so much throughout. I'm researching so much throughout because that's my job. I try to do anything that's outside of anything too strong.
Okay. You're not a book reader, but what do you read in news? What type of resources do you go to? Podcasts, anything? And because you covered so much politics,
right.
What do you cover? What do you read? What do you like watching?
I like to watch people that are doing something similar to us. I like to read things from the older publications, just so that I can understand. Like I try to my whole time goes around researching and understanding different ways in which people are creating content, different ways in which people are distributing content, different ways in which people are building their businesses.
Okay.
That's my
time. Do you think the algorithms are against a few creators? I think a lot of creators do good content there, but they forget the distribution. Why is that?
See, if you are relying on a social media platform, you have to rely on the algorithm. You have to feed the algorithm. If you try to go against the algorithm, it's not going to work in your favor. I feel like there are creators that are just like, I don't care about the algorithm. Yeah. That's not going to work in their favor.
If they don't have a network, it is a problem.
Exactly.
It is a problem. But there are good people out there. I've made those mistakes. I mean, in the past, when I started out, I thought, okay, build great content, but because I have a network, don't believe in the distribution of the algorithm.
Right.
But then I've learned now that any content creator out there, and if you are in an age group that doesn't believe in the algorithm, you have to work towards it. And is it biased in a way?
Algorithm, yes, it is. It's collecting your data. It's telling you what you want to see.
So you have to feed on that.
Exactly. And there are ways in which you can hack the algorithm to give you more valuable content than what you're already watching. Right? For example, if you want intellectual content, you go to Barely Opinionated, you read it continuously, you add us to your favorites, and then automatically you'll start seeing more intellectual content on your feed. It's
So that's
as
how.
simple as that.
But you're saying the early stage it has to be snackable.
Exactly.
Then move them on to.
Exactly.
So that's the journey you have to do now.
You have to do.
Unlike the old days where the newspaper guy would come and drop it in front of your house.
And those I would
interactive.
say were easier days. Now the competition is so much.
Because content creation is easy.
The barrier to entry into content creation is so much easier that there is so much competition.
So would you have to think like a tech company in the future? Is that where Azan's team's coming in? Will you build a tech team as well? Would you think of those things?
We are thinking about it, but again, like I said, I have thought about a year and a half, which is our content and distribution, and soon we will start planning on that, but nothing too serious right now.
Last 3 questions, and these are going to be completely casual type of questions. Do you listen to music?
Of course.
And what type of music do you like?
I listen to a lot of rap and hip hop.
Rap and hip hop. Favorite artist? Drake?
No, Kendrick Lamar is.
Okay, yeah, very nice.
Yeah, and J. Cole is also really good. I don't listen to a lot of Indian artists. So there are a lot of these Urdu hip hop artists also, which are just amazing.
Do you like
I love when people are able to do word plays.
Do you understand Urdu?
I don't understand because it's very close to Hindi. I am able to understand. I can't read it.
What's the artist that you'd recommend?
There is this artist called Young Stunners. They're Pakistani artists actually. They do some really good. It's just poetry to your.
That's the beauty of the internet now, right? You can discover content
exactly.
from anywhere. There are people out there who are good content.
Yesterday, I was doing a live on Instagram and talking to the audience, and I had 2-3 people in the comment section. They were like, "Hey, I'm from Pakistan. Love your content," right? And
that means they have seen Barely Opinionated.
Exactly.
Which is good.
People from different countries. There was one person that told me that their friend who stays in Italy recommended Barely Opinionated to them.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing.
That's a good deal, man, then for you. So music is your favorite.
Yes.
So content creation is your favorite. Okay, next question is, you're in your studio the whole day. Do you get time to really spend time with friends?
Yeah, I mean, I try to take out time at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I try to keep 2.5 hours for my parents, for my friends, yes, every day.
That's very important?
It's very, very important.
Do kids today spend time with parents at all?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think it's essential?
It's very important. It's very selfish to think of it from our perspective. I used to do that a lot, but now I've started thinking of it from their perspective also, that they want their kids to spend time with them.
You're not opinionated there. That's the beautiful part, right? So my last question is, where to next 18 months? Where do we see BO?
If you whichever social media platform you are on or you prefer, we are going to be there. We are going to be the source of information for you.
So what Rohit and I can say is, if you're done partying, to consume news, right? To share, like, whatever we put out there, support us,
yes,
right? And then go vote.
Yes,
that's your right. Don't say
please
no.
Vote, please.
Don't say nota, nothing, whatever, right? But do vote. It's your right. And check out Barely Opinionated. And if you like this, do share. And I'm going to put it out on YouTube, of course, on LinkedIn, of course. LinkedIn for the older people. Do check out the news. It's more factual than other things like that. Right? Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.